for me. He's also a bridge between God and man in the Christian faith, and the one I think is most powerful precisely because he serves as that means of us reaching something higher. I know a lot of Christians of different faith. I do. But I don't think any Christian that I know of answers the first part of that as he's a historic figure. To each his own. This is only to say why the American people might be confused. The president apparently has a deeply held belief that his salvation cannot come without a collective salvation. He has said this on several occasions. This is critical for you to understand. Watch.
My individual salvation is not going to come about without a collective salvation for the country.
My individual salvation rests on our collective salvation.
Our individual salvation always depends on collective salvation.
Our individual salvation depends on collective salvation.
It does not. It does not. That is not a Christian belief. That is liberation theology. Here is what Pope Benedict says about that theology. Wherever politics tries to be redemptive, it is promising too much. Where it wishes to do the work of God, it becomes not divine but demonic. It is a belief structure that obviously comes from Jeremiah Wright. Where did he get it from? From the author of liberation theology, James Cone.
The only way in which your repentance, your forgiveness can be authentic, your reception of it can be authentic, your repentance can be authentic, is that you give back what you took. And white people took a lot from black people.
This is why America's confused. What Americans can't get their arms around is that for the first time we have a president that believes in collective salvation, that believes that the U.S. is the oppressor and Islam in this case is the victim, but just one of many victims from the big bad oppressor, the United States of America. That's what's happening. Don't be confused by this. Don't confuse this with he's a Muslim. I don't believe he is. You have to learn his theology, learn his influences, learn who he surrounded himself with his whole life. More knowledge, not less. More access to information, not less. You see, it's all about victims and victimhood, oppressors and the oppressed. Reparations, not repentance. Collectivism, not individual salvation. I don't know what that is, other than it's not Muslim. It's not Christian. It is a perversion of the gospel of Jesus Christ, as most Christians know it. But as usual, the media won't look at any of those facts because most people in the media don't have any idea what Christianity really is. They would just rather disparage, mock, and ridicule anyone who has any kind of doubt or differing opinion from their Messiah. Bob Schieffer, you seem like a nice gentleman. I don't know you, and I'm sure you are a good journalist. I don't know because I don't watch CBS News, and quite frankly, I don't know anybody who does. But it's not the internet that has caused these problems. It is the president's own actions, his own beliefs, and the lack of journalists who lack the integrity to the craft that created this nightmare. Oh, and one last point here. I showed you where most people heard where they thought that rumor, you know, that Barack Obama was a Muslim, from TV. It was followed by Barack Obama's own words. And at the very bottom of the list, where did that hateful misunderstanding come from? The very bottom of the list, coming in with a whopping 1%, came in from that demon media seed, talk radio. From Washington, D.C. all this week, welcome to the program. Yesterday, I showed you the president's favorite website and how they pulled out the underutilized liar, liar, pants on fire argument to make the claim that I was somehow or another being hypocritical on the Ground Zero Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf. It's some of the worst reporting I've ever seen. And that's saying something. I mean, have you picked up the Washington Post lately? Oof. Anyway, I never endorsed this imam, and I've never condemned this imam. What I've said is there are some highly questionable statements surrounding this man that should be looked into before he's allowed to build a mosque a block away from Ground Zero, or for that matter, in Kansas. It seems like a reasonable request. I just want answers, but no, nobody in the media wants to do that. We're just being told, shut up, even though it doesn't add up. The administration wants you to believe that this Imam Rauf is busy being an ambassador for the United States around the globe on taxpayer money, and that's totally normal. While he's doing that, the wife of this Imam is back home in the United States on national television saying that all Americans hate Muslims. Shouldn't we find out if this ambassador, what he thinks about that claim from his wife? And then we have this. Here's the latest. A speech given by Rauf in 2005. It's just been uncovered. And here's what the America-loving ambassador had to say.
We tend to forget in the West that the United States has more Muslim blood on its hands than Al-Qaeda has on its hands of innocent non-Muslims.
I wonder who has more blood on their hands of Muslims, us or Al-Qaeda. Do you see this? America is worse than Al-Qaeda. Sounds like he kind of agrees with his wife, doesn't it? So it should come as no surprise that opposition to the Ground Zero Mosque has risen from 54% to 62% in just the last couple of days. The opposition isn't growing because Americans hate Muslims. It's because we're using common sense. It's growing because this particular Muslim seems to be connected to people who hate America. Regular people are looking at this issue with common sense. You get it. You get that Muslims have a right to build a mosque next to Ground Zero or any place they want to. You just question the wisdom of it, but more importantly, you realize that the building of this mosque isn't about location. It is about what this mosque may stand for. Who's building this mosque? Where are they getting the money? What is their motive for building it by Ground Zero? You get it. But right outside this window is the Capitol. Now, they don't get it. Politicians don't get it. You've got Governor Patterson meeting today to talk about the mosque. He's renewed his offer to give state assistance to the project's developers if they care to move. Well, let me ask you something. How does changing the location of a mosque that may be dangerous answer any of the concerns raised by this imam's questionable comments? How? Is it better somehow to have the guy who says America's worse than Al-Qaeda 15 blocks away as opposed to 4? The question shouldn't be where to build this mosque. It should be, do we build it in the first place with these people? Patterson doesn't get it. Bloomberg doesn't get it. Bloomberg has greenlit this project at the same time he's out there in the media eloquently defending the right of Muslims to build a mosque, which no one is arguing with. I mean, have they built any mosques since September 11th? Have there been any mosques? Because I haven't heard anybody screaming and yelling about it. It's this one. While he's doing that, he's not going to support a Greek Orthodox church efforts to rebuild their church, St. Nicholas Church. The only house of worship destroyed in the September 11th attacks. Destroyed. The city hasn't been able to get that one done in 10 years. But they have no problem voting 9-0 to support a $100 million mosque that no one knows where the money is coming from. And the imam and his wife have a habit of making anti-American comments. No problem with that. Whoa, whoa, St. Nicholas. Who is this St. Nicholas guy? Excuse me? They also don't have a problem supporting a small Christian group called the Bronx Household of Faith. You'd think the small Christian group that's just been trying to find a meeting place been trying to rent out a vacant space in a school building on the weekends, you'd think the city would have no problem saying, okay. No, city says absolutely not. They are supposed to let anyone use that space so long as their purpose is pertaining to the welfare of the community, end quote. They've literally been in and out of court fighting this small group of Christians for 15 years. But the city is going to give money and incentives to build this mosque if they'll move it. Something's not right. People opposing the mosque don't need to be investigated, like Nancy Pelosi says. Here's what you're going to find. They're using common sense. Oh, sure, there are a few people who are dummies, but most of Americans just using their gut and common sense. It's those in charge that seem to be putting an agenda ahead of common sense. Maybe they should be investigated. Man, I have an idea. If we could just find someone in the media that wasn't compliant. More on that and the agenda next.
Pop quiz. What culture was superior to Christendom from the 8th to 11th centuries because of their love of art, beauty, and the love of learning? If you said Islam, you'd be on your way to an A on the New York State Regents exam. Public schools celebrating Islam and slamming Christianity. Next.
Hello, America. We're from Washington, D.C. all week, where in, what is it, 4 days? 4 days from now, I'm going to be speaking at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. It has been made controversial by so many people. It is not controversial. No one knows what's even on the entire agenda. In fact, my staff didn't even know until I laid it all out for them last night. They were getting a little concerned. Glenn, we can't tie all this together. We don't know how it all works. So I had a private meeting with them last night to tie it all together. I have kept it under wraps because I find it extraordinarily interesting how the media just makes it into some nightmare when they have no idea what's even happening. Don't you miss it. Saturday here in Washington. And it will explain this, what I'm wearing, and you'll see it down here on right there. This is actually the original Purple Heart. It was the badge of merit, only discovered in 1933. It turned into the Purple Heart, but it was originally made by George Washington. We'll explain a little later on. Now, we're seeing all kinds of public policy that is at odds with common sense and the American people. When it comes to building this mosque, where's the funding come from? Who's leading this mosque? If you say anything, apparently you just hate Muslims. Really. Why would the government be blindly supportive of this mosque and have a pattern of blocking Christian churches and Christian groups? I came across this story today in the New York Post, also from New York. Here it is.